And now, a story from the Appleseed.
You're all very kind. All very kind. Well, it was, I flipped the cloth. I had the cloth like this, and this is what the royal family in Cameroon, only they were allowed to wear this pattern. I was told this by a gentleman from Cameroon who saw me perform this story I'm about to tell you. He said, bring that cloth. I'll tell you some stories about it. And he said, only the royal people were allowed to have this pattern. Musa's son. Musa's son was adored by everybody in the village. He was a great kid. He was a great listener. He listened to his parents. He listened to his grandparents, and nobody called him by his name. He was known as Musa's son because Musa was the chief of the village, and that boy was his only son. Yeah. He had a daughter too. The chief, had a daughter, Musa's daughter. But Musa's son, I was very busy helping people out in the neighborhoods and playing with friends. And then there was the rite of passage ritual that all the kids had to endure. All the boys, that is. You could not become a young man without passing the test. And that is to stand in a small circle at the edge of the desert with nobody, no food, no water, all day long. And when Musa's son's day came, he was quite nervous because his father was not going to cut him any slack because he was the chief's boy, no. And an elder himself, Musa, took his son to the circle. We're almost there. I'm very happy that I still have enough strength to bring you to this circle. Here we are. Here we are. We've arrived. I stood here when I was like you. My father stood here. You know the stories. They go on and on for a long time. Today is your day. Step inside. It's a very small circle, and there's a purpose for that. Yes. You must not step outside. You must remain inside the circle until I return later on to bring you home. The sun is already hot. Don't be a fool and look at it. You know better than that. It's going to get hotter. You feel like your brains are being cooked. Remember the stories. Courage. Responsibility. No matter what you see here, remain in the circle. And you'll be fine. You step outside. You'll never get married. You'll never have a family. And you'll never be chief. Good luck. He watched Musa, his dad, disappear as if consumed by the heat. He didn't want to bring shame to the family. He stood in the middle of that circle bullseye. It was so hot already. Oh, he would do well with a lot of water right now. But there's no water, there's no food, there's nobody. Just him and the desert and the small circle. It was not fair, it was so small. And he stood there, and that's when he saw a sandstorm coming. A sandstorm, a sandstorm! Come on, not today, a sandstorm, and from it, a rhinoceros. The beast was charging towards him. A grown person would have run away, but he stood tight. He stood in that circle with the rhinoceros getting closer and closer and closer, and then he remembered something his family had taught him. His grandparents talked about it often. We receive with one hand, we give with the other. We receive with one hand, we give with the other. We receive with one hand, we give with the other. We receive with one hand, we give with the other. And that felt good. And when he opened his eyes, the rhinoceros was gone. The sandstorm, no more. And his feet still there in the middle of the circle. Good. Oh, Oh no, another sandstorm. Another sandstorm. One after another. Perhaps another rhinoceros. No, this time it was a serpent so large it could consume a human whole. It was just getting closer and closer and closer. This long snake getting closer and closer and closer still. And then he remembered yet something else he had learned. We respect all things great and small. We respect all things great and small. We respect all things great and small. And that felt so good. He felt so right. And when he opened his eyes, the serpent was gone. And the sky was blue again, no storm brewing. And his feet had moved around inside the circle, but no trespassing, no steps beyond the edge of the circle. And his shadow had grown to what they call a sunset shadow. You know, I always look good in a sunset shadow. You know? Yeah, everybody looks tall in a sunset shadow. And that meant that he was going to go home soon. And he looked towards where his father might be coming, and there was no signs of Musa yet. Oh, that's all right. He made sure. He was a little confused. He was extremely tired, dehydrated beyond belief. There was a lion in front of him. There was no storm. He could smell the thing. It was an old lion, one of those lions without a pride, you know? Scars across the lion's face. It looked like he couldn't see out of one eye. The mane was missing. This lion had gone through a lot, and this lion was hungry. And the lion stepped towards Musa's son. And Musa's son had a chill go up and down his back, even though he was hot and he was tired. And he moved away from the center of the circle. But there's no way he was going to step outside the circle. No way. No, not today. Come on. And then the lion quit. And it turned away, uninterested. But it was moving away like lions do when they go hunting, ever so slowly, putting its paw ever so carefully. And right beyond the lion, Musa saw his mother and his sister. What are they doing here? They're not supposed to be here. And they're not even looking at him. They're looking that way, in the opposite direction. Mom! Mother, sister. And he jumped up and down. He screamed from the top of his lungs, but they couldn't hear him. They couldn't hear him. They wouldn't turn around. And the lion was getting closer and closer and closer and closer still and closer still and closer still. And all of a sudden, Musa's son just ran as fast as he could towards his mom and ran and grabbed her. But there's nothing there. Oh. His sister was gone. The lion was gone. Whoa. Oh, what an illusion. What a nightmare he had just seen. Good thing there's nothing going on. He could just focus on the... He could see his footsteps into the sand. He had run away from the circle. And in panic, Musa's son failed the ritual. And he saw his father coming now, and he could not even look at him. I'm sorry. I failed everything. No. You failed nothing. Huh? You've done wonderful. Look at you. Let's go home and celebrate.
There's nothing to celebrate about. I ran from the circle. I ruined everything.
No, that's not what happened. It looks that way, but that's not so. He didn't run away from the circle. Hey, shh. Calm down. The rhinoceros came, you stood in the circle. The serpent came, you stood in the circle. You remembered things we taught you. And then the lion came. He was no threat to you he was a threat to your mother and your sister. Shh. No, you didn't run after nothing. Love is not nothing. You're told to stay in the circle. Why are you going to stand in the circle and watch your mother and your sister be devoured by a lion? You gotta think on your own 2 feet, young man. Everybody's told to stay in the circle. But the ones who succeed run. Courage is important. Respect, of course. But without love, it's not the same. Let's go home and celebrate. And that's exactly what they did.
Thanks for joining us for a story from the Appleseed.